Thank you, Laura. We've reached out to the laboratory requesting a conversation about these plans and issues. We look forward to airing that interview if and when the lab official, when they agree. Now, back to our line opinion panel to round out the 2022 election analysis. The race for governor stole many of the statewide headlines, but if you watched any of the TV at all in the last month, you know the contest for Attorney General was pretty contentious too. Bernalillo County DA and Democrat Raul Torres ends up with a decisive 10-point win as polling predicted. And again, this raises questions, Dede Feldman, about the direction of the Republican Party. I say that to say this. Jeremy Gay seemed to be a strong candidate who needed help with name recognition, and he didn't get it. Interesting point there. He could have given Mr. Torres a much tougher go, it would seem to me, especially on crime. But something didn't click there. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he was a newcomer.
Yeah.
He was a newcomer to politics, which can be a plus. And I thought his positions were good, and his last commercial was really funny. You know, I was surprised also that he didn't get the support from the Republican Party. It just seems ill-conceived that he did not. Right. Because even if somebody like that loses, there may be a future for him.
That's right.
And so, you know...
I hate to put it out there this way. I got to ask you, African-American in the Republican Party, was there a problem there? I mean, is that why we didn't have a full-throated, support of him?
I didn't even know he was an African-American. And maybe that says something. And maybe
so was the lieutenant governor for Ann Thornton also.
Yeah.
Not drawing conclusions here, just asking. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so was John Allen, the sheriff's candidate.
That's right again.
The Democrat. So I mean, I feel like race is less of an issue here than it could have been.
Yeah, good point there, Rebecca. Again, 10 points. I'm just shocked. I mean, the DA's race, crime never seems to stick to the DA. I don't get why that is. Or Mr. Gay tried. I mean, it wasn't for an effort, that's for sure.
No, and it's funny that you mentioned that about just crime doesn't stick to a DA, because we had this conversation in my house this morning, actually. So I know we're not supposed to talk about this openly, but I'm an open book. I voted for Raul Torres because I like him. Sure. And then my husband said, why would you promote the like in Bernalillo County, where we have the worst problem, why would you vote to promote him to statewide office? And I said, I didn't even think about it that way. I just really like the guy. I've seen him speak before, and I think after hearing him speak, what I was left with the feeling of, this is not his fault. Right. This is the legislature's fault. It's the courts. Right. It's everyone's fault but Raul's, and that was what I left with. And so it was interesting, again, talking to my husband, and then also hearing it. I was hearing Darren White speak about it on the radio earlier. Same kind of thing. Like, why doesn't crime stick to the DA? But, it's done now.
It is interesting. Dan, another interesting element, the stances on bail reform. I found this interesting. Mr. Torres, of course, favored the hardline approach to rebuttable presumptions. We've talked about here at this table a bunch, essentially forcing a defendant, as you know, to prove he or she isn't a danger to the public so they can get out before they go to trial. Jeremy Gay had a pretty good stance on this, maintained it should be a prosecutor's responsibility to prove that defendant poses a threat. Was that just a little too much nuance here? Because, again, this could have been a real hammer blow and kept it simple. Do you know what I'm saying? In your view, did something not catch with Mr. Gay's response here?
This is a really complicated issue, and I think it's difficult to explain it to voters, certainly in kind of a political setting. Torres's message, to Rebecca's point, was kind of, casting himself as, the one who was fighting to put people in jail, and sort of this difference between he's the adversary of the system, he's fighting this rotten system. And that, I think, is an easier message to deliver perhaps than the one that Jeremy Gay had. But it is a really complicated issue, and the Attorney General does a lot of things besides just crime. So, Torres's election is going to put him in, he's going to be handling new issues like consumer protection and all kinds of civil litigation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. The DA's office can sometimes be an interesting stepping stone to other things in politics. Again, not to make you make predictions. Do you see something for Mr. Torres down the road? I know he just got in office a matter of moments ago, but anything there you're seeing for further down the road from him?
He certainly seems like a really ambitious person.
Yeah.
He's gone to all the best schools. He's been a federal prosecutor, a district attorney. The last governor, of course, was a district attorney. Attorney General itself has also been a stepping stone for a lot of politicians. So Torres is at an age where he could be in the political game for a really long time, and who knows what he's going to run for.
Senator, you've seen this as well. I like to say this position is the white knight of a state. Come and rescue things, right wrongs,
That's right.
put money in people's pockets, back in people's pockets that's been taken. So I'm curious where you see Mr. Torres as well as how he did this time around.
Well, he'll have to change his image from a crime fighter and a DA to a broader consumer protector, a defender of New Mexico when it comes to water, when it comes to pharmaceutical prices, when it comes to other issues. And other offices too, like the auditor and the treasurer, especially the auditor, has been a stepping stone for people that have gone into become the AG, especially. And Secretary of State could be a stepping stone, although it has not been in the past. And it's kind of an underrated office, I think, in the state.
That's right. Well, let's talk about that. The current office holder who just got her seat, Megatulu Oliver. I got to ask you, Rebecca, she won by 11 points. Meanwhile, her opponent was an election denier. Some might say that's a bit of a layup, but our Secretary of State has been through a lot. She was in hiding on election night when you really think about it. Earned victory, not earned victory because of her opponent. How do you see her 11-point victory in context?
I think it just speaks volume again about how what really people pick up on in other states does not track here. And I think you look next door to Arizona, election deniers are still really heavy in it, still neck and neck. But here, New Mexicans aren't standing for any of that stuff. Like, we know what's up, and I think that's still possibly a turnoff. But I think that our current Secretary of State has done a good job. She's brought about some. So she's made it more, I think, more accessible. We were just kind of speaking about voting more accessible, and so I think that is one of the only actual victories in the state where the winner has bragging rights. I think every other race was so close. I don't think anybody should be like, "Yay, I win," because they were all so close.
Interesting point there. Speaking of Andre Trujillo, of course, she wanted to end requirements for in-person voting. Vote by mail. Right, and people are used to that now.
Yes.
They sort of like that now. Was that an appropriate way to go into a Secretary of State's race?
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. I mean, I think the thing that about Maggie is that she has balanced the security as well as the access. And she's also been kind of the explainer. She has put out a lot of information about how it actually works, how are votes counted, how we have paper ballots, how our voting machines are not connected to the internet. And it's designed to reduce tensions and to answer questions. And she's not out there proclaiming rah-rah on her victory.
Right.
But this was a big victory for facts and for people and for democracy, really, because that was what was at stake at this election. And she raise the flag that much about it. She just did it, and she led her county clerks to do it as well.
Right.
And they worked hard, and the election came off without much of a glitch.
We haven't heard anything from Otero County or any place else. There's been recent dust-ups, so that might tell the tale there. Dan, state legislature, of course, the balance of power appears to be holding for Democrats. We've got 2 races outstanding as we sit here taping this a day before Friday night's airing. But altogether, Democrats are set to flip 2 seats and lose 3, pending those accounts. But no red wave here for New Mexico. Well, anywhere in the country, but here in New Mexico, it just didn't happen, did it?
Heading into the election, the Republican leadership was pretty optimistic that they were going to pick up some seats. Right. Albuquerque Democrats, Albuquerque used to be pretty divided, between Republicans and Democrats. And it has really turned blue recently with only Bill Rehm, one Republican, sort of left. Right. So I think Republicans were optimistic, especially with, crime rates, inflation, other things, that they really had a chance to hold Democrats responsible for that and expand their majority. But the way the results look now, it didn't happen. The red wave didn't happen. Democrats, I think, are, if they come out of this with the same number of seats or even lose one, they're going to be pretty happy with that, I think.
Democrats pulled a seat in Rio Rancho. You know what I mean? There was some interesting wins here for Democrats, let alone any kind of red wave.
And they were mostly women.
Right.
If you look at it, they were mostly women, too. Pamela Herndon, Meredith Dixon, Natalie Figueroa, Marion Matthews.
Good points.
And that they held their own in the Heights, and they got a lot of help from the Democrats. They got a lot of help from Melanie Stansbury,
well, there you go,
who
too.
softened up the ground in advance for them.
That's right.
2 years ago.
That's right. Demonstrating what can be done in those districts, and she's done it. Rebecca, on Dan's point, interesting. If the Albuquerque-based Republicans couldn't push through on crime, where can crime be pushed through? We are sitting, we're always talking about crime, and no one pays a price. It's an amazing thing.
And I honestly don't know what it's going to take, other than we just need to get more people to the polls. Right. And I think that our current practices are not, don't lend themselves to really getting people up off the couch, or even to mail in a ballot early. If you don't, I haven't felt so enthusiastic and passionate about any political candidate since Barack Obama. I woke up every morning excited about that election. Now it's kind of like, well, it's the lesser of 2 evils. It's always going to be the lesser of 2 evils, no matter what the race. And until we as a state can do something dramatically different that really inspires people to vote, then we're going to continue to be last in this. We're going to continue to have the highest in that. And I think, you're right. If crime can't flip Albuquerque, then nothing can.
Isn't that interesting? Absolutely. Let's talk about redistricting. Just got a couple of minutes. Dan, your sense of how it may have affected any key races you can think of, redistricting?
Well, for the state house, Jane Powdrell Colbert, the only Republican incumbent to lose, she was in a much different district because of redistricting. She lives in Corrales. That district also had some Rio Rancho and Albuquerque in it. But we're seeing some of these, more suburban areas also go Democratic. But she was in a much more Democratic district, so I think that was certainly a factor for her.
Yeah.
But conversely, the district right next to her, Damon Eli's old district, was also reconfigured, and it went Republican.
Yes, that was kind of almost a trade-off. I think the redistricting didn't necessarily change the composition of the legislature so much, but it hurt
an incumbent.
It hurt Powdrell Colbert's chances, but meanwhile there's a Republican district right next to it. I think it's Alan Martinez won, and so you end up with a net effect where maybe there's not that much change overall, but certainly for Jane Powdrell Colbert, it certainly feels like a big deal.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and one of the big issues in redistricting is the degree to which incumbents should be protected. Gotcha. And of course, the commission said we don't want to consider that as part of our deliberations. But the legislature, that's job one, to protect the incumbent. So, in fact, it's job one to such a degree that in our legislature, 43% of the seats are uncontested because they're safe seats.
That's right. We're going to talk about that in a future show. I'm so frustrated looking at a ballot and seeing uncontested races. It just goes against everything I want in a democracy. It's crazy. Thanks again to our line panel here live. Really good fun this week. Now, be sure to let us know what you think about any of the topics these folks covered on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages, and catch any episode you may have missed on the PBS video app, on your Roku, or your smart TV.